Okay, perfect. Okay, this is great. Nice to see you, Peter. Thanks for reaching out to me. Josh, how you doing this evening?
Hey, great. Hey, okay. So, um, when did you start doing your work with mass resistance?
Well, why don't we try something a little different? Why don't we do kind of like an introduction of sorts?
Right.
So why
Okay.
don't you so like let me just
So who's gonna get introduced first? Do you want to introduce yourself first, or do I introduce myself first?
you go ahead, please.
All right. Well, hi, Arthur Schaper. This is Peter Hall and Josh Hall.
All right. And why are you reaching out to me? There's so many
Uh,
people you could talk to.
because you're a political activist, and I happen to agree with your opinions, and I want to know what made you decide to start doing what you're doing.
I thought you were pretty dynamic at the meeting,
Wonderful. Which meeting was that?
the
Yesterday.
last one.
Oh,
Well, the last
are you talking about yesterday or at the school board meeting?
school board meeting?
Oh, okay, where he was going around videotaping people.
Well, I didn't
Okay,
see him do that, but I
that's
arrived after
cool.
the fact. But I thought he was pretty dynamic in the meeting.
I don't remember him speaking, but yeah.
You were probably on your phone.
And just for everybody's knowledge, which meeting are we talking about?
The last school board meeting?
The one that
Uh,
was on the 8th.
Yeah.
there's a lot of school board meetings everywhere.
The
Where?
Redlands one.
The Red Ones one. The
Okay,
Red Ones.
in
We don't go to
Redlands.
any other school board meetings except the Red Ones Unified School District.
Gotcha.
And
And
you go to school board meetings all over California?
I've done that specifically wherever parents reach out to us. Now I can segue briefly just to introduce myself before you ask your other questions. My name is Arthur Schaper. I'm the field director for Mass Resistance. We're an international pro-family organization. I'm going to do a
Mm-hmm.
brief screen share so people can see our website. There we are. We've been fighting LGBT perversion for over 30 years. We don't shrink away from a fight. I can share with your audience some of the stuff we've done recently in
The mass
California
resistance has
school
been
boards.
around for 30 years.
That's pretty
Uh,
cool.
a little over 30 years. And here's one of, this was last year. This was in the Norwalk La Mirada School District in Los Angeles County. They had a horrifying well-being center, quote unquote, that was in one of the high schools directing kids to get abortions or sex change procedures. We rallied the parents, we protested the school board, we knocked door to door, and the school board backed off and they shut down the program. We were
So
very
this is
excited
actually a
about that.
medical center at this school.
What it would do is it would direct students to facilities off campus, oftentimes Planned Parenthood related facilities.
Okay, I get it.
Planned
It was a middleman.
Parenthood provided the training for the staff at the center. That's how obnoxious and insidious it was. So that's a little bit about mass resistance. But now I know that you have a lot of questions you wanted to ask me. So go right ahead. I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, so you mentioned that mass resistance has been in existence for a little over 30 years. So I guess it got started in the early 90s. Then how long have you been doing what you're doing?
So I've been, and just to clarify further, it started in 1993 as the Parents' Rights Coalition. It was in Newton, Massachusetts.
Uh-huh.
Brian Kamker, he's the president of Mass Resistance. I can do another screen share so I can share this information with you and the rest of the audience. Uh, this is our summary people can read about. But Brian Kamker, there he is. He's the president. He founded this organization with other parents
Never evil.
in Massachusetts. So we're talking the belly of the beast. It's even worse there compared to California, although that's hard to believe since it's so bad in California. But
Yeah.
we had incredible success statewide. We passed a parents opt-out law, which is still on the books to this day. And well, we've been going after everything else ever since, from drag shows to passing bad law to stopping bad laws to helping school boards pass good legislation to protect kids. So, as for me, I started out as a volunteer with Mass Resistance in 2014.
Okay.
Initially, I was a freelance correspondent for two news sites in New England. Even though I live in California, I was writing for Go Local Worcester and Go Local Prov. That was Providence, Rhode Island. And I found out about Mass Resistance through their activism, helping children get out of the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families, and because it was an abusive foster program. And later on, they shared with me how Massachusetts schools were working with a program called GLSEN, which is Gay Lesbian Student Education Network. This is about
Uh-huh.
pushing all of this LGBT indoctrination onto kids, teaching kids that they could be gay, normalizing this stuff in the classroom, trying to create so-called safe spaces for gay kids, trans kids. This is all a bunch of lies. This is just total child abuse. I was shocked by it. From that point on, I was working with them hand in hand. I've been really alarmed about LGBT perversion for years. You all know the story about Jack Phillips, the cake, the baker who's been harassed for not baking the cake for a gay
Oh,
wedding,
Colorado.
right, out of Colorado. I was disgusted by the cancel culture of LGBT activists. The CEO of Mozilla Firefox was forced to resign because he donated money to the Prop 8 campaign here in California. That kind of vile,
Wow.
abusive cancel culture bothers me, and it's a total lie. People aren't born gay, they're not born trans. Why are we buying into this, and why are we allowing people to abuse us? That
Right.
always bothered me. So I've always been just naturally opposed to this, and Mass Resistance gave me a venue to be active in fighting it. I worked as a volunteer initially, starting in 2014. And then in 2018, I was hired full time. I became the organization director. 2018, 2022, I became the field director. We brought on another staff member, and we've been continuing to fight the fight ever since.
How do you deal with people who say that? Because there are some people who were gay that weren't sexually abused, and they found
Mm,
out that they were gay in during puberty, and sometimes
mm.
even before puberty. So how do you deal with that? Is it like a chemical or hormone imbalance in their brain?
These are very serious questions, and you're the first interviewers to really ask that up front. A lot of people just avoid it. The fact is that there's no gay gene. There is a comprehensive study that was done as recently as 2019 that shows that there is no genetic necessity or base component that leads to homosexuality. So we
Right.
know that much. When people talk about hormonal issues, that has to do with a dysfunction. But most importantly, with every homosexual, you will find some aspect of abuse, neglect, confusion, molestation, or shame. If a boy is raised in a home and he doesn't have a father figure, he doesn't know how to be a man, he doesn't know what it means to be a man, that's going to frustrate his development. It's going to impede his adolescent growth. This is a common issue. Janet Boynes, a former lesbian, she had nothing but negative relationships with men, and she didn't know, but at the same time she had a single mother who wasn't there for her either. She didn't know how to be a woman, she didn't know how to dress as a woman. And a lot of women, for example, who fall into lesbianism, they often resort to such practices as a defense mechanism because they've been abused, molested, harmed, or they have suffered loss, or they at the very basic level, they haven't gotten that unconditional affirmation about being a male or being a female. These kind of dynamics are inevitable. Ryan Sorba went into a gay bar undercover for Project Veritas. He interviewed every homosexual at that bar. This was in San Diego, probably about 10 or 15 years ago. Every single one of them acknowledged that they had been abused or molested in some fashion.
I
Uh,
actually met that guy at a Awaken Redlands event like last year. It was like at one of the mansions in Southern Redlands. I met that
okay,
guy, and I haven't seen him since, but he actually showed me that video that you're talking about.
excellent. So there you go. It's when
That
people
was
say
when
that,
Sandy was running for the school board.
Yeah.
there you
Yeah, go
go.
ahead.
When people say that they discover that they're gay, what they're really dealing with is trauma that is
Hmm.
not resolved or properly confronted. That's the issue. And we have a society that lies to them and says, oh, well, to be gay is okay. Everybody should back off and accept it, or they need to celebrate it. But there are more people who are leaving homosexuality and they enter into natural marriage and they have children. This is happening to men and women. There's the Changed movement. There's Christopher Yuan's ministry. There's Joseph Scambra in San Francisco. I mentioned Janet Boynes. There is a growing number of reparative, restorative, or reintegrative therapists who are dealing with the underlying traumas that help people to break free
Milo
of this.
Yiannopoulos, I think, is a gay man who's trying to change and stop being gay.
Correct. He no longer identifies with that perversity. I know that there's other issues he's dealing with, but yeah, he's a signature example of somebody. He was molested as a kid. He talks about that. A priest molested him. So these are
Wow.
very damaging circumstances that induce homosexual issues. So that's how we deal with that problem. We've had out homosexuals contact our office and tell us that they support what we're doing. I'll never forget this. There was a young man in Houston, Texas. This was after we shut down the drag queen sex offenders who had been reading to kids at the Montrose Library. And he was saying to me, he was saying to us, I don't support any of this. I want out of it. I'm tired of this. I don't support kids being harmed. This is not what I want, and I'm glad that you guys are doing what you're doing. There was a lady, she lives in Wyoming now. She still thinks of herself as a lesbian, but she's not an active participant, if you will. These are traumas that don't get taken care of overnight. She doesn't shove the rainbow in people's faces. She doesn't want the agenda supported. It's not an identity that she flouts either. There are people who slowly but surely are getting out of these. Dealing with trauma doesn't happen overnight. And some people, they never quite get over it. Sometimes the trauma stays with you, but you know the truth about yourself and you don't have to act on behaviors that don't define you.
Right. Yesterday, when Josh said something about how like he doesn't care if adults are in homosexual relationships as long as they keep it private and don't get kids involved, and you said that we shouldn't excuse even that.
Well, there's no way we can stop it.
That is
Mhm.
true.
Not unless we want to become like all those nations. Not unless we want to become like all those nations in the Middle East and Africa.
Mhm.
Even the Christian nations in Africa, which people refer to as the Christian Taliban nations, or
Mm.
like Kenya, for example.
Oh yeah, where people can be put in prison for homosexuality if they're caught or even executed and stuff like
They
that.
can also be given lengthy prison sentences for like normal sexual behaviors, like having a man and woman having sex out of marriage, or
Yeah, committing
Well, let me
adultery
ask
or
you, I mean, is there a question or a challenge? What are you
Oh, I was just
posing?
gonna say, since you said not to excuse that, what do you think about working with groups like Gays Against Groomers?
I
That's a
think
great,
they're a Trojan horse.
you
Okay,
know
let
what,
me
and I
answer.
agree with you. Gays Against Groomers proceeds from this false premise that children are born gay. That is a lie. That is a damaging lie. That is a child abuse lie. I cannot endorse that. I never will. Gays Against Groomers, I can ask the simple question, where are they? What are they doing? I don't see them in Redlands. They're not helping you. They were briefly active in the LA area. There was a handful of them that was working with some parents in Whittier, but they never did anything. Not only that, but
They were active. Sorry.
Go ahead.
when LA County opened up an LGBT center in the city of Whittier, I sounded the alarm. I said, let's try to deal with this. A team of people didn't come together, didn't coalesce in Whittier, unfortunately. Not only that, but some of the Gays Against Groomers types, they chimed in and they said that they supported an LGBT center being constituted in the city of Whittier. That is wrong. We should not
Mhm.
be normalizing, promoting, propagandizing homosexuality, transgenderism. They're inherently destructive behaviors. We don't celebrate drug use. We don't
Right.
celebrate meth labs. We shouldn't be celebrating the promotion of homosexuality or transgenderism. And for the record, when it comes to recognizing the wrongdoing of these behaviors, here's the deal. Singapore, okay, that's a first world country. They still had an anti-sodomy statute on their books. Now, it wasn't actively enforced. However, the existence of that statute, it sends a signal. Your behavior is wrong. It sends a stigma. It's not to be celebrated. Well, Singapore repealed their anti-sodomy statute in 2022. I
Huh.
have contacts in Singapore. 3 years later, there are drag queens in lots of places. Kids are being taught about this stuff. You have openly gay teachers advocating for the right to be able to practice their profession and openly espouse their perversion. And there are other problems which ensue. If you say that something is okay, if you take away the moral sanction, it will proliferate. And sexual degeneracy, it doesn't stay in the bedroom, folks. It is not a private matter. Every one of us is the offspring of that very private relationship. It is a private act and it should stay that way. Prostitution should be illegal. Incest should be illegal. And keep in
Right.
mind, have you all noticed, first they decriminalize homosexuality, then they normalize same-sex marriage. Now we hear talks about normalizing prostitution. They talk about sex work is work. This is from people like AOC. Now there's discussions about trying to normalize pedophilia. Once
Oh,
you open
yeah.
the door to one type of perversion, what's to stop the rest of it? And it's
I mean, Ruth
inevitable.
Bader Ginsburg wanted to bring down the age of consent to 12 years old.
There you go. Age of consent laws are under attack like never before. This is actually part and parcel. The Democratic Party advanced this proposal as early as 1972 during the McGovern campaign. He quashed it because it was so damaging. And notice how even trying to, that's how far the Democratic Party had gone even in 1972. And they lost by 49 states to Richard Nixon. And Nixon wasn't exactly a culture warrior.
And that
Uh,
was like 3 years after the Stonewall riots.
Correct. So you see that there was deep alarm. This perversion has been percolating for decades. We can't
NAMBLA was
tolerate it. We
started in
shouldn't
the
permit it.
1960s.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go. We need to restore proper sexual mores, marriage, not just you brought up the issue of like sex outside of marriage. Even in California, there were laws in the books that criminalized adultery, sexual degeneracy outside of marriage. I think there's a way to reinstate a sanction without jail time. Do you see what I'm saying? But we
Okay,
shouldn't be
yeah.
normalizing
So like
perversion. That's my
so
point.
like you think that there should be laws on the books, even if they're not enforced, just for symbolic purposes.
At the very least, yes. That allows society to thrive.
But if you don't enforce them, then what's the
Well, I mean, you can enforce them if you have like
Thank you for that
proof that
question.
someone
Let
did it.
me build on that. In Texas, police officers relied on those anti-sodomy statutes to go after sex trafficking. They
Yeah.
provide a means to go after the more serious issues.
So like even if we're not gonna like enforce it most of the time because like people are doing it in private and we don't have proof that they're doing it, if we catch them doing it, then we can go after them.
That's correct. Because remember, it builds into all these other problems. And we've seen this now. We've experimented with the sexual lassitude now for the last 20 years. It's been nothing but trouble. It's caused nothing but problems. The spread of venereal disease, the undermining of families, the political persecution against people of faith, against churches, charities, and small businesses. It's not a private matter. We see the abuse that happens under these so-called pride parades, all the problems in the schools now. This is a result of allowing for sexual anarchy. We have to
Most of
take a
my
stand.
activism most of my activism I actually do on social media like X and Threads, which is a part of Instagram. I have these conversations. I usually don't do it in public like you, but I have
I
these
do both.
conversations with people on social media all the time, and I constantly talk about how like ever since we made gay marriage legal, how they're trying to force churches to marry them, Christian churches and Catholic churches, and they're trying to force bakers to make their cakes and caterers to cater their weddings. And
And florists to give them flowers.
somebody always says, and actually a bunch of people, somebody always says, they're not doing that. Stop lying. Nobody's forcing Christians to marry gay people.
And you are good to be standing your ground on that.
There's so many cases of like,
All right, let them answer. Go ahead.
I'm affirming your issue. Let's see. In the United States, there has been general protection, but they are trying to They're trying to find ways to take away tax exemption status. There are routine protests to harm churches. They're doing everything they can to undermine the sanctity of faith as well as family and freedom. So you can tell that. And we always have to go back to the businesses. There was the bed and breakfast in Hawaii that faced unprecedented persecution for not providing a room to a gay couple, a same-sex couple. Let me see if I can find that story really quick.
Yeah, and these
This,
people do it on purpose. They purposely single out these businesses, knowing
absolutely.
and hoping that they will be refused just so they can start a lawsuit.
Let me show you. Yeah, that's exactly it. They insist on trying to test the tolerance, if you will, imposing their lies. This is what happened. This is from 2019. The Hawaii bed and breakfast, they lost their appeal.
Huh.
This is an absolutely, this is so-called anti-discrimination. It's horrible. There was another story this was in the United Kingdom. A bed and breakfast was persecuted, and they lost their appeal. This was even earlier. This stuff, again, is not a private matter. Whatever happened to freedom of association, whatever happened to property right, all of that is forced away because we have to all bow down to the god of homosexuality and transgenderism. That's the
Mm-hmm.
expectation. It's the new religion of the liberal state, and we need to push against it. Now, mass resistance, we don't rest exclusively on freedom of religion because there are people who aren't religious, but they oppose this perversion as well on purely biological, psychological, sociological grounds. And
And
their
I
views should
say
not
that
be.
on social media all the time. I say you don't have to be religious to oppose this. You just have to have common sense.
Absolutely. And that needs to be the message. Mass resistance, we often rely on natural law arguments. I am a Christian. We've worked with Muslims. The president of mass resistance is Jewish. So we have a wide religious background, but we all are dedicated to fighting this perversion completely. We don't believe in half measures. We don't believe in partnering with homosexuals just to try to protect the kids. That's not enough. You have to stand for truth entirely. And the proof's in the pudding. We have been getting results. We have been making waves. When you have a chance, you can visit our website, or I can even share with the audience right now. We have pushed the discussion. We're trying, if you will, to move the Overton window back to the right. We have repeatedly pressed for legislatures to take a stand against Obergefell, the same-sex marriage decision. We started this fight at the beginning of the year. Idaho was the first state that passed our resolution against Obergefell, calling on the Supreme Court to revisit and overturn the 2015 decision. We're not interested in holding on to what we've got. We want to restore what's been taken away.
Right.
So that's what's made us significant. That's what made us outstanding, different. We're not always liked or accepted by other pro-family groups, but we're fighting to get the job done. And we're helping we're helping people in Redlands now to fight the abusive leftist LGBT bigots who attack churches, charities, families, and the school board.
Okay. This is a personal question, but do you have any friends who are part of the LGBTQ, even though you oppose the LGBTQ community?
In a way, yes. The lady I mentioned in Wyoming, she's a friend of mine. She knows where I stand. She knows I'm not a hate monger. She came to one of our conferences and supported all the stuff we're doing. But I always stress the truth that that's not who you are. I don't think of her as a lesbian. I've been very clear about that, and she understands that. Again, these are things that don't get overcome overnight. But one thing's for sure, she's very committed to keeping this perversion away from kids, the public square. She doesn't want the pride flags everywhere. This is stuff that's a big problem for her.
I Josh thinks that like the gay community that is like talking about how pride shouldn't be everywhere. Josh thinks that that's a Trojan horse. I think some gay people, like your friend or
Well,
whatever.
some individuals might genuinely not want it to be everywhere, but
Mhm.
overall, if it's not a Trojan horse, it's definitely a survival mechanism. They see the tide turning, so they're
They
trying to
do.
get us on their side.
Correct. The Gays Against Groomers movement. That is precisely what they said a year ago in Iowa. A state legislator, or maybe it might have been 2 years ago,
And
introduced a
we've
bill
had gays
to
against groomers at city council and school board meetings.
Yeah.
that has happened
Okay.
in the past. That is true. But what I wanted to add was in Iowa, a state rep introduced a bill to reverse the state Supreme Court, which had imposed same sex marriage. And Gays Against Groomers said, oh, look what's happened. The gay mafia has made the whole thing so sick and negative that now they're taking our rights away. It is what you said. It's like a safeguard or a survival technique to hold on to their rights. But you don't have a right to marry anybody. You don't have a right to put on a dress and call yourself a woman and make everybody else believe that lie. This is a big conversation this country has to have, what rights really are, what constitutes them. You don't make a right out of thin air, and a right doesn't impose on someone else's right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
So we have to reject that argument. One thing I would also encourage you to start thinking of, don't think of an LGBT community. There's no such thing. There's no such thing, I submit to you, as a gay person, because it's not an identity. It's a behavior, it's a trauma, it's a maladjustment. And it can
Right.
be overcome. I don't believe anyone's natural rights should be violated. We absolutely oppose when, you see what Islamic militants do in the Middle East. They throw people off of buildings because of their sexual problems. No, we don't agree with that. That's evil. We don't agree with violating natural right. And that's part of the reason all the more that we have to fight those bigoted hate mongers, those Nazis who harass you and others in Redlands, because they are violating everyone's natural rights.
Right. I do agree with that. Let's see. All right. Let's see. So do you have any future plans? Are you going, what cities are you going to in the near future?
Okay, we are working with a community in Western North Carolina to clean up their libraries. We are working with our team in Oklahoma. They are branching out, cleaning up the schools in their area. That is a big vision for us. We want to clean up the schools entirely, get all of the woke, broke, LGBT, DEI, CRT garbage out of the schools, make the schools educational again. We have a broader vision. We want everything out. We want more than piecemeal policies passed. We want personnel removed. Librarians and teachers who are pushing this garbage need to be fired. We need to
Yeah.
see a rejuvenation of real integrity in the education system. We're committed to that. We're going to be working with some people in South Dakota starting next week. You mentioned Kenya. We have a pastor in Kenya who has been prospering our Kenya MassResistance chapter. He's been talking to thousands of students across the country against this perversion. This LGBT lobby, they're targeting every country, and they rely on American media, American Hollywood promotionalism to normalize this. And we're the only agency that's pushing back against this completely. You have Kenyan students, they don't understand how a man can be pregnant when they see an advertisement with little X Nas or little Nas X, that creepy demonic rapper.
Oh,
And
yes.
and so our pastor has had to correct them and say, no, that's a lie. No, no, men do not get pregnant. This is in Kenya, folks, which is a very Christian country. It's everywhere, and we're pushing back against it. We're
Many
also
Africans, many Africans think, and actually homosexuality, I think, is mostly an attack against the West. But I saw a documentary a couple of years ago where many Africans think that the push of LGBTQ by Western countries into their countries is an attack on them.
It is.
yes,
And they're not entirely wrong. It's an attack on the human race, but I think it's mostly an attack on Western civilization to get the population of Westerners down.
I
Yeah.
agree. There's a strong depopulation element for sure.
I remember earlier this year, I heard something like, I forget who it was, but I heard that one African leader called out Barack Obama when Barack Obama made a push to like bring homosexuality and transgenderism into like some country, and the country's president or something said, we're not America, stop bringing your perversion here, something like that.
Yes. Here we go. This was the president in Kenya. Here I can briefly show the video to the general audience. Or the Kenyan pastors, don't bring the gay talk here. This was 10 years ago. That is correct. We have Kenyan leaders warn Obama not to talk about gay rights. This was 10 years ago.
Uh,
This was, in the wake of the Obergefell corruption. Uganda was a key target. Uganda, of course, they've doubled down on their pro-family policies. They are extensively criminalizing this perversion because they are coming after the kids. They are grooming the kids. They bring it into the schools. They groom certain students to go into their high schools and convert other kids to lesbianism or homosexuality as well. It's very
wow.
pernicious. And so there are strict legal strictures going after this. I was speaking with an activist in Senegal. They have been launching a full-scale assault to stop this Western corruption coming into their country. That's a majority Muslim country too. The challenge they faced, of course, during the Biden regime is that they were pushing homosexuality everywhere, and they were threatening countries with sanctions or loss of foreign aid if they took a stand against sexual perversion. Now that the Trump administration is back in office, there's more leeway. More states are renewing these efforts to stop the normalization of homosexuality in their countries.
Yeah. Did you ever see Matt Walsh's documentary? Was it What is a Woman?
I
He's
sure did.
mentioned that when he was,
I still haven't. You ever want to watch it?
yeah, he mentioned that when he was in, I think it was Kenya. He mentioned that when he was in Kenya, he was asking them questions about like, what is a woman? And he said that they couldn't even answer that. He's like, what are you talking about? Because they have no concept. Like, a woman is a woman. Why are you asking me that?
Well, when they finally got it, they started laughing at him.
Yeah.
Very good. This is one example where sub-Saharan Africa, even North Africa and Central Asia, they are way ahead of the West in these regards. We've even helped in Central Asia. There's a country, Kyrgyzstan. We assisted them with passing comprehensive anti-LGBT laws to keep out. Foreign aid was targeting Kyrgyzstan. The Biden State Department was pushing a lot of money with strings attached to normalize this perversion. They cut off the money. They passed comprehensive legislation. They've cracked down on the dissemination of this propaganda, even in their media, including the internet. They're very hardcore about stopping this.
But like these countries, even though they don't believe in this nonsense that we do, they have other things that they believe in. Like for some reason, people over there believe that a man can get rid of HIV if he's infected by having sex with a virgin. They believe that. I've heard that. And
Those
they
are problems,
also,
for sure.
They also believe in like they still believe in like witch doctoring, like people who are albinos and stuff like that are targeted for their limbs because witch doctors will use their limbs and their organs and potions and stuff like that.
Yes, it's a very delicate balance that Western conservatives need to find. Something that bothers me is you have a lot of populist or dissident right commentators and activists. They love Vladimir Putin. Now, Putin has cracked down on LGBT perversion, sexual degeneracy, etc., but he is a tyrant, an autocrat, a violent dictator who kills his opponents. I don't want that either. We want a society where natural law and natural right are respected. And that's what we have to restore an understanding of the laws of nature, which are clearly recognized in the Declaration of our United States Declaration of Independence. These are biblical based
Putin
principles.
is a tyrant, but he's done a lot of good things. Like he got rid of international banks in Russia. Like the only banks that will operate in Russia are Russian banks. Like he got rid of the Rockefeller banks and stuff because
That's due to that is due to the sanctions, but again, there are severe consequences. If you are not of the Orthodox Church, you cannot share your faith. You can only worship in a building. You cannot stand on a corner and share your faith. If you're a Christian, if you're Jehovah's Witness, if you're Jewish, a Muslim, you go to jail. That is a problem. They're the
Yeah,
best. This is why the West, Russia is not the West. They love talking about that. They're not the West. They deliberately distance themselves from the West. The West is the best when it gets back to its full Judeo-Christian heritage. And part of that heritage was sexual normalcy and propriety. And the West has lost that because it's lost its Christian heritage, it's lost its center, it's embraced a liberal secularism. And as a result, you see all of this degeneracy and tyranny. In the United Kingdom, you're not free. You can't even speak anymore. You can go to jail just for criticizing transgenderism. So this is a very serious, and this builds on your point regarding sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, where they have folk beliefs that are false. We need a restoration of truth on all parameters regarding individual liberty, but also communal responsibility. And that's a very tough
right.
discussion that the West itself has to get back to.
Yeah. Um, so regarding Putin, if I'm going to support anybody in the Russian-Ukraine war, I will support Putin over Zelensky. But like you said, Putin is not a good guy.
Yeah, I would say
But
they're both
Zelensky
bad.
isn't either.
Yeah,
Zelensky is
very
doing
bad.
everything that we're accusing Putin of doing. But
true. Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up in Ukraine they're starting to normalize sexual perversion. They the court there has imposed same-sex marriage. They have transgenderism in Ukraine. It's becoming very much
Zelensky used to be a gay porn star before Obama made him president, before Obama made him his puppet in 2014.
now,
brother, there are so many problems. There's been so much corruption influence
no, it's
in that
true. Zelensky
center,
was a
and
gay
there
porn
is
star.
that broader sexual degeneracy. The idea of this perverse wokeness, and Ukraine's been quite a conduit for it. It's a very ugly mess. Mass resistance, we're not invested in the foreign policy disputes as much as we want to fight this perversity across the globe. If someone in Ukraine reaches out to us to fight this perversion, we want to help them. If we had a commentator, a blogger in Kazakhstan reach out to us, she interviewed me. Now, of course, I don't speak any Russian, so she spoke in Russian and an interpreter provided a translation, but we had a very similar discussion. We support Central Asia, we support Russia's aggressive stance against perversion, but it shouldn't be at the cost of natural right and natural law.
Yeah, so, I mean, as authoritarian and censorious as Putin is, Zelensky, I think, is actually even worse in that regard, because like Zelensky banned religion entirely. Like the Orthodox Church in the Ukraine has been banned. He banned political opponents. The only media that's allowed over there is state-controlled media.
Yes.
Okay. And like he's even killed journalists too. Like I don't know how many journalists he's kidnapped, tortured, and killed.
This is a pretty broad
I do know
discussion.
That one of them,
it's kind of taking us off of the mass resistance subject in general.
Yeah, okay.
That's not. I'm not
right.
here to be a spokesman on the Ukraine-Russia war ultimately, but giving the general ideological framework that mass resistance does proceed from. That's that would be my suggestion going forward. So,
do you know of any organizations like yours that are operating in Russia and Ukraine and stuff like that?
We don't have any chapters there. As I said, we've been working in Kyrgyzstan. We've worked with some people in North Macedonia. We helped a pastor there. A conservative government took power, so they're stopping the gender ideology. This is happening everywhere.
Where's Macedonia? Is that in Africa?
North Macedonia is north of Greece. It's in the Balkans. They speak they use they speak a Slavic language. They use the Cyrillic alphabet just as Russia does, but the pastor spoke very good English, so we were able to help him there. We have assisted activists in Australia. It's certainly a lot easier when we can work in the English-speaking world. One of our activists in the United Kingdom has been very bold in speaking against this perversion. He's been fined in court for sending malicious communications to the local police department, complaining about the abortion clinics and calling out the heinous LGBT lobby, which supports the mass murder of unborn babies. He was fined £2,000 for just telling the truth and writing a
Wow.
communication to the police department. He is appealing that. It's become a national case, not as celebrated or as infamous as Adam Smith Connor. He's a veteran who was jailed for praying outside of an abortion clinic, because veterans get a lot of attention, and it's understandably so. But David Skinner
Yeah,
is his name. He's worked with us extensively.
David Skinner.
Yes. Oh, there you go. You know about him. You can read about him on our website. Robert Hoagland is a father in British Columbia, Canada. He went to prison for refusing to obey a gag order. He told the entire world about how his daughter was molested, transitioned in the local school district, and he
And this
refused
is
to
in
support
Canada
it.
you're talking about?
That is in Canada, yes. And also in Canada, Bill Watcott, he's a Christian activist. He uses our materials. He is still facing charges of inciting hatred. That is an actual crime in Canada. They don't have a First Amendment there. Just for passing out gospel tracts in a gay pride parade. Let me
Uh, I,
share that. Let me do. I'll do a screen share and share that with the audience as well. Just give me 2 seconds.
so I
And
forget the name of this guy, but are you talking to that one guy, um, whose wife took custody of his son and is transing his son
Oh, in
into a girl?
Texas.
Are you talking to that guy?
well, first let me just inform your audience about Bill Watcott here. So he's the
Okay, I see
uh,
it.
let me just find one of the most notorious examples. He was dragged before the Human Rights Tribunal for calling a man a man.
Right.
This is how insane it is. This is in British Columbia itself. He passed out this flyer saying that, people cannot change their sex. Let
Mm-hmm.
me find the one where he was in a pride parade. Give me a sec on that one. Here we go. There's Bill Watcott. He was national news in Canada. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars persecuting him simply for passing out anti-LGBT flyers at a pride parade.
Right.
And they dressed up as the gay zombies, Cannabis Consumers Association.
I didn't hear about that. They look like
They
aliens.
they cheated. You have to register to be in a parade. It's not, again, they don't have a First Amendment, so the government can regulate who even marches in a parade. So they submitted fake names. They pretended to be these out homosexual activists, and they passed out gospel tracts saying homosexuality is destructive. It was medically accurate. They didn't say anything like kill yourself or you should die. Notice how you had naked men in front of children in
Right.
Toronto. This is the Toronto Pride Parade. But Bill Watcott is the one being charged with a crime for passing out a gospel tract. This is how evil it is in
Is
Canada.
that the gospel track in the picture, the one that looks like it's in a condom package?
That is correct. I can show you the contents of it. There it is. Gay zombies want you to practice safe sex. This is okay. You're seeing anal prolapse. These are destructive behaviors. This is
Whoa,
the
that's
result of
gross.
the AIDS. It is gross, and
Let me see.
you see
What's going on?
you see the
He's only doing it on
oral
his computer.
cancers that result. This was a member of the Liberal government in Ontario who was a child molester. He was busted for child prostitution, and this is all accurate. It's disturbing. It's despicable content because homosexuality is a destructive behavior. And this is again why we don't, going back to an earlier point, why it shouldn't be normalized, why it shouldn't be tolerated, why it shouldn't be just, oh, you can do whatever you want, just don't push it on the kids. If it's okay for two men to abuse each other, why not teach it to the kids? So you have to go after all of it. That's regarding Canada. Now, I want to follow up on another point. You ask about a father who's trying to protect his son. The mother took the child away. You're talking about Jeff Younger. We
Yeah.
have interviewed him. We worked with him in the past. He has taken his own path because he's relying on a predominantly legal approach, which is more than appropriate because he needs to do something as soon as possible. I don't know the status of that case right now. It's been an appeal. They were trying to go after the judge. We protested outside of the mother. She's a pediatrician. Very disturbing. There's Jeff we were assisting him. We protested outside of a dance studio where the little boy was enrolled by the mother, trying to transition him. We went after her pediatric practice in Texas. We protested there. We also confronted the judge who was overseeing that horrific case, normalizing, accepting the abuse of the child. I don't have immediate updates on that case. Jeff has been pursuing that on his own. Regarding the legal strictures, I know that he's in California, or he was in California for a considerable period of time because the case was here in the state. So, but yeah, we assisted him as much as we could. The Texas State Supreme Court failed him. They allowed the mother to basically kidnap the kid and take him to child abuse California. This is very sad.
Yeah. Wow.
So as you can see, we're very busy. We're doing as much as we can, fighting it at everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah, you must have like a lot of people in your organization do to do all this on so many different like fronts.
We do.
How many members do you say that you have here in America?
The numbers, they come and go. We're like in the tens of thousands. We have a lot of supporters here, and we have supporters also all over the world. A lot of people in other countries, they can't even speak openly against this for fear of violating the hate speech laws, but they will support us
Yeah.
every way they can. We've had donors from Hungary, Germany, Poland, Hong Kong, Taiwan. I've mentioned Singapore.
Wow. All right. Wow.
Can you send us all the information you can on Amber easily? Because I'm looking on Candy Olson's site and I can't find her.
Yes, we're getting information right now. We plan getting back to the Redlands situation, some of the abusive LGBT Karens who are targeting you and other community members. We plan on doing an extensive dossier exposing these abusive people. We are going to do to them what they've been doing to all of you, because that's the only way this works. You have to give them a taste of their own medicine. We're going to start reporting them. We want to start to we want to start filing complaints against them because they truly are violating ethical standards, norms, especially like Valerie Tabor. She calls herself a therapist, but when she is actively transitioning children, that's child abuse. Nobody should be tolerating that.
Right.
And, whereas they shamelessly go after Candy Olson trying to get her nursing license revoked. This is vile. And I certainly hope that she and others will be retaliating in a proper legal fashion. That is defamatory. That is unethical. And I think there is some wiggle room there. I think they can find some criminal accountability there to put a stop to that.
I've actually commented on that like quite a few times at city council meetings. But like these Together for Redlands activists, like they're all shameless narcissists, emotional manipulators, and liars. I don't know the names of most of them, but one woman claimed that if we're gonna sexualize the pride flag, then we should consider the family pictures of like Redlands USD teachers and staff. We should.
No, she said we should
We should consider their family
pictures
the same way that we consider the pride flag. Another woman claimed that like the school board is banning books but won't do anything to ban guns, as if the Redlands Police Department wasn't like screening everybody coming into that meeting room for weapons. One guy claimed that he could file a complaint against the U.S. Constitution by saying that it has obscene content in it, even though it doesn't. They make all kinds of ridiculous statements.
Yeah, they're mentally ill, to put it mildly. But I think narcissistic and abusive is the most accurate description for the shameless. But I think everybody has a limit, and a lot of them, when I confronted them last week, were very much put to shame. A lot of them got very scared when I confronted them. They tried to report my videos on YouTube, but they were unsuccessful because I had every right to record. It was a public space. They made themselves available to be recorded. And if they're so proud of the shameful things they say, why would they want to take my video down? It shows that
Mhm.
these are people who you can break their will so that they stop abusing kids, abusing adults, and they stop pushing perversion in the local school district.
Yeah. Well, I guess you got to go soon, huh? It's almost 8
You
o'clock.
bet. The fight never ends, but I'm glad that you guys are part of the fight. We're glad that you're part of mass resistance. We certainly hope that more people in Redlands will join our effort, and we know that we will be successful in this. I do appreciate you very much, both of you reaching out to me, and I certainly hope we can encourage more people to fight the good fight.
All right. And you're gonna send me the video link to this?
I sure will. I'll provide you all the resources after this is over.
All right. I will write an article about this interview, and then I'll send it to you, and then we'll try and get it published in like the Redlands Daily Facts and other publications.
That would be excellent. I look forward to seeing it.
All right. Bye, Arthur.
All
Bye.
right. Have a good evening. Thank you so much.